Hey guys, Grifton here, and today I want to talk about Warcraft logs, specifically the new changes that have been implemented. Now, this video is going to focus on Druid tanks, but all three tanks have been affected by this, so if you play another tanking class, I urge you to read through the documents that I'll be linking in the description. I will be giving a brief explanation of Warcraft logs themselves, so if you already are familiar with Warcraft logs, feel free to skip ahead. Okay, now first, if you don't know what Warcraft logs is, be warned, it's kind of like smoking cigarettes. When you first hear about it, you don't know why anyone would want to do something like that, but then you decide to check it out, and next thing you know, you're addicted to the color pink, and you don't know why. But seriously, it's a website that allows you to compare your damage and healing numbers to other players, as well as look at deaths and buffs and times to help you improve as a character. Or at least that's its intention. The number one use, however, is something called parsing. The best parse is a 100, and most people try to get all 99s to show they are good at their class by doing the most DPS, damage per second, or HPS, healing per second. The problem is a lot of them are willing to sacrifice other things to achieve these parses, like their raid. Some people will ignore mechanics to just get one more cast off or one more swing in and not care that it could cause the whole raid to wipe. Now, don't get me wrong, parsing can be fun, but in some situations it has been taken to a whole other level, cheesing their parses by manipulating their classification. For instance, if you are a bear trying to parse, the best way to get a high DPS parse is to spend as little time in bear as possible, but spend as much time in cat as possible for a higher DPS. There's actually weak auras that people use to ride the line by spending just enough time in bear to get a parse. Now, skewing the numbers against regular bears and tanks is just I don't know, it's a little murky. So Warcraft logs has tried to come up with ways to combat this. So there have been many attempts to fix this, and you may have noticed over the last year or so a new classification called warden. It's essentially someone that is playing the role of bear, but not full-time, or at least not as a main tank. The rules by which a warden are established has been modified again, so it's not as cut and dry as it used to be, and I wanted to share the documents that explain that. So if you're wondering why a fight where you were a cat the whole time but got warden, hopefully this will explain that. Alright, so let's just jump over to my browser, and I'll show you. Now, this is my parse from last week in Burning Crusade Phase 3. So we did Black Temple at Mount Hyjal. This was our our initial clear. So as you can see, there's the breakdown of all the bosses here, but also right here is what I'm kind of referring to. This is the parse best percentage, and what it's showing is you'll see there's a cat symbol, there's a bear symbol, this is the warden symbol. So the cat is called DPS, this is guardian, and this is warden. Now, even though, for example, Grutok Bloodboil, I was tanking the whole time, I got a warden parse because I didn't take enough of the damage. And that is kind of where the question marks start coming in, okay, what is the consideration for what I need to do? Because I was a tank there. And so Warcraft logs did put out a document explaining that, and I'm going to show that now. They also have a blog if you want to understand all the stuff they did. There are three choices, obviously. There's an intro that doesn't really have anything, but the main thing is the Druid tab, which is what we're going to talk about the most. But if you are a Paladin or Warrior, feel free to look. I think Paladin got a new classification called Justicar. Yep, Justicar. I think it's similar to a Warden. Okay, so first you want to just read the top. This is kind of like the basics of the parsing. 70% of bear form unless the boss has a damage taken requirement, or 20% of bear form for Warden unless the boss has a damage taken requirement. So essentially this is the default, but for each of the bosses in Phase 3, they've actually broken down what categorizes them specifically. So for example, High Warlord Nagentas, minimum stance up time is 0, which means you could be in cat form and still get a tank parse. You could be in bear form and still get a cat parse. The thing that's determined is the damage taken requirement for a guardian. So the damage taken requirement for Nagentas is you have to take 70% of melee hits from Nagentas. So you could sit in bear form this whole fight and not get credit for a guardian. However, if you look down at the warden, it says as long as you are 20% of the time you are in bear form, it is going to give you a warden parse. So if you're trying to get a guardian parse by cheesing it, you can't, but you can get stuck in a warden if you're in bear too long. So if you were cat the whole time, or if you're in bear less than 20%, you're going to get cat credit. But some of these are different. So let's look at Supremus, which is a different one. So 70% of melee hits from Supremus is pretty much the same thing as above. You're a guardian, but in order to be credited with a warden, you have to take 30% of hateful strike hits. So even if you're in bear form 100% of the time, if you're not taking any hateful strike hits, you're not even going to get the guardian credit. You have to be targeted by the hateful strikes. So keep that in mind. If you went into Supremacist, and there's 2 off tanks, and the other off tank continues to take all the hateful strikes, you might get categorized as a DPS on that fight. And it's stuff like that that are really confusing people, because they're like, hey, I was an off tank and I'm cat. This is the kind of stuff you have to look at to make sure you understand why people are getting categorized as they are. And I recommend, if you are really into parsing, that you study this and understand it, so in each fight you know what you need to achieve in order to get the correct parse you're trying to go for. Now that all being said, if you don't care about like the parse category, then don't worry about any of this, because this is really just for people that want to parse as a bear every time, or want to parse as a cat every time. There might be some things you need to avoid doing, and you'll just need to read over this. But for most of us, it's really going to be, Warcraft logs is going to be used as a great tool to kind of figure out how we can improve like our particular parse. So like you can click through and look and see, okay, you know, here was the damage taken, you know, how can I reduce this? I can look and see like specifically, you know, okay, I'm taking a lot of melee, I got a molten flame, I can fix this. Things like that are really helpful for you if you're trying to improve your tanking skills. So even if you're not a parser, this tool is really helpful, but if you are a parser, just be aware there have been changes. Anyway guys, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. Yeah, check out some of my other videos, and I hope you guys are enjoying phase 3. I know I am. And as always guys, take care.